I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What's up, you beautiful bastards? Welcome to another Already Dead, your favorite weekly conspiracy variety call-in show. Yeah, it's me and Austin. Hopefully we have some new people with us today. I just had a fairly big appearance on Shane Cashman's show. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the OKC bombing and then I guess kind of that. And then you just dropped a new episode today on the Order of the Solar Temple. I finished it before this. I had just enough time. Pretty fucking wild, and surprisingly, there's a connection between that and the OKC bombing. I do want to address something real quick. For those who watch Shane's show, and I suggest you do, I mean, he's had a running thing of having technical issues, and it definitely happened with me. My mic cut off multiple times. I don't know what it was. I could never figure out why he was doing that. I tried to audio check it for this, the episode to see if it was something to do with my mic, but no, it's not happening now. So I don't know. Also, I don't know what it is. Literally, you guys see, if you're watching a video, see how it looks right now? And if you watch the video on that, I look like fucking Zordon. I was nothing but a head. I had the same exact camera set up, everything. I don't know. So just letting you guys know that, just so you didn't get the impression for the handful of you guys who came over here from there, that I actually just have awful, audio equipment and always it just looked like a floating head. It's not quite the case. I'm a little bit closer than a lot of people tend to be to their camera, but not that close. Yeah, I also did want to correct one last thing on that. I want to correct the record. I fucked up when we were talking about, I was trying to make connections between, I believe at the time I was trying to make connections between McVeigh and Strassmeyer, and I also gets kind of like threw in Elohim, and I was like, oh yeah, Elohim. And in my head, I was thinking, because there's a whole rigmarole. Anytime you bring up one of these, whether it's security cameras or whether it's John Doe 2, there's like multiple examples. So you kind of have to run through the Rolodex in your head. And I think I blurred some things together. And what I was thinking was the factoid of John Matthews, who was the undercover PatCon operative, and how he said that he saw McVeigh and Strassmeyer together, and I said that he saw them at Elohim, and I literally the next day as I was driving into work, I went, fuck, it wasn't Elohim, it was Texas Light Infantry. So I know it's not that big of a deal, even though, especially since I already gave you guys a TLI, somewhat the rundown of that episode, like a quick, that's where he met Holloway at. But yeah, I mean, it bugged me. I just wanted to address it, that I got that little thing wrong. So, because you kind of got to run through the Rolodex, and I was like, all right, I just figured that was the appropriate one at that time. And yeah, I also, that one was a little bit last minute. I'm very appreciative to Shane having me on, but that was a last minute, like kind of booked me a few days out. And with these, I just want to let you guys know I'm a retard. And with anytime I talk about like OKC bombing or something more technical, I legit like for like especially a big appearance, I will like weeks out, like or a week or maybe more out, just inundate myself in that content, so that way I'm
Right.
like I have it, I can rattle it off quickly. Like I have like notes that I have saved in my phone.
That's what I did for Jonestown when
Yeah.
we did that series. Same
So
thing, man.
yeah, so I have to do that too. Like anytime I have like a big appearance, so I had 2 days. Luckily, I had driven the day, but like for like 8 hours, like the day prior, because I had to go deliver a cat. For those who know, I deliver cats, so I had plenty of time to kind of soak myself in the content and go back over it again in the car, and not so much the next day, but I mean, I had plenty of time to prep, so I think I did pretty good. But just saying, I felt like I could have done a little bit better. But with the gremlins there, Shane's gremlins got me a little bit. They did fuck me up a little bit, but I think I mostly did well. I think it was a solid showing, aside from the technical difficulties. But
No,
yeah,
I
I don't
liked
know.
it.
I thought I did all right. So, but it is what it is. I
Definitely.
just felt like I could have done better. But every time I've ever done a big show, I'm always like, fuck, I could have done better. I will
I
say
know,
I felt
right?
like I did pretty damn good on the Dave Smith one. That one I came off was like I feel like I
Oh,
did pretty
dude.
damn good.
I like that one
So,
for sure.
yeah. But
I
yeah,
remember actually listening to that one now that you mention it 100%. Like,
yeah.
but I enjoyed your appearance though, brother. I just honestly I think it's interesting. I always love Shane. Like Shane seems to most of the time lean in directions that I tend to, as far as what I would more than likely assume is the case. You know what I mean? I'm not technically, speculating all the time, but clearly once you come away with information and knowledge about a subject, right? You feel at least like you have the right to speculate and keep it in that, and
Hmm.
compartmentalize it to that extent, but still I think it's important to have some sort of opinion on what you think happened, right? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand when people want to remain objective and as much as they can, and they play that journalistic
Yeah.
line, but to me, it's like
Oh, you're talking
that's
about how I right off the
necessary.
bat was like, yeah, I think it's a false flag. I
I
mean,
loved it, dude.
I
I loved
qualify
it,
it
bro.
though with that. I can't prove it, but I just would be.
Right.
I feel like I'd be lying to my audience, and this is why I kind of made the point in the show at one point that I do dabble in journalistic ventures. I help out journalists. I've done a little bit. I did wrote one piece, and I do swim in these parapolitic circles, but I don't know. I don't feel as beholden to that level, and also it's just
Right.
like I feel like I'm more just beholden to being honest, and
Right.
that's my honest take. So like, kind of like Dave
100%.
Smith always likes to make that like that's his job to his audience is to be
Right.
honest. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. To some extent, there's some things that's like none of you guys' fucking business, but like so far
Right.
as like when it comes to like stuff like this, like if someone asks me, hey, what's your take on the Oklahoma City bombing? It's like
Mhm.
yeah, I don't, to be quite frank, I think the government basically fucking. There was in my opinion, there likely was a high level of, or there was definitely some intentionality from those that sit above in shadow, essentially.
Right.
So that's just kind of but I will say I can't prove that, but that is
Right.
one of the hardest things to prove because
Well, motive,
you,
it's like
yeah,
impossible to prove a
yes,
motive. Like, I mean, come on. That's just a ridiculous way to approach, I think, the entire story. And so it's important to speculate on the motive, no doubt, 100%. But once again, we have to distinguish what we do know for certain and what we, according to all this accumulated evidence, lean toward as far as our opinions and when it comes to the motive. And so I always like to mention, like, of course, Strassmeyer's always been the smoking gun for me, like when I
mm.
found out about his story. But
Oh, sorry,
no,
real quick.
no, go ahead.
I don't know if you regularly listen to Nick Bryan's podcast, but
Not enough. I need
yeah,
to get back on it. But
recently he had some guy, I forget the name of the guy. He's wrote multiple books on Watergate, and
oh shit,
Nick Bryan, I feel like is kind of a good
you don't
example of
remember
what
his
I was talking.
name? Damn it.
No, I can't. He wrote something Scorpion or something Scorpion, but he wrote some Watergate books. But either
Okay.
way, the point being is he was more the normal journalist and like here's my take, and like then Bryant came in and like they talked at a polite talk, but then he kept giving him multiple because he was trying to get him to get the op within an op type take
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
essentially have in our Watergate series that still isn't
Right.
finished. We need to schedule a third part, but
Yeah.
so he kind of kept it. Oh no, it's just the all I can prove is this. So this is all I put in my book, and this is all I really talk about. And
Right.
like to some extent, I get that. You're like, I don't want to speculate, but it's like I feel like you can easily just say, "Hey, I'm speculating," or like you can do serious research books even and present things in a way that like. Oh yeah, maybe people will be like, "Oh, that's wild speculation," but like, yeah, but that's what it is,
Yeah.
speculation. So,
Yeah.
like I'm
Exactly.
respecting my audience and saying, "Hey, this is speculation." I'm
Definitely.
showing you all the reasons why I think this, but like, hey, we all also know that these aren't like this isn't perfect proof.
Right.
But yeah, real quick, I do want to let know because I was trying to get at with the new people coming in. I do want to let you guys know what this is every Tuesday. Sometimes we change it up. We might change the time depending if we have a guest or something. But we do this. This is a live stream call in. We do the call in the second half of the show, about 45 minutes to an hour in. I'll put up the number. Also, if you guys decide to support me or Austin on either of our Patreons, we put out the link, the StreamYard link, so you guys can join in as a talking head right alongside one of us and talk to us and ask us questions and stuff. So you have the call in, and we also just at that point, the second half of the show, that's when we start addressing the chat. So also, if there's any questions you guys have in the chat, keep throwing them in there. We will get to them. So I don't know. I know if any of you guys came over from there, whether you have OKC bombing questions, whatever. Austin I'm much more of an OKC specialist. I still wouldn't consider myself an expert. Austin's more of a jack of all trades, is fucking an autist on all things parapolitics. So if you have any questions in the veins of things we talked about on Shane's show or just in general, pop them in the chat. We'll try to bring them up or call in or if you guys, if you're a patron or if you want to become one, there will be there's a StreamYard link in both our patrons. I'm assuming you put up a post recently. I did.
Yep.
So my last post, go check it out. Check out the StreamYard link, hop in. But yeah, anyways, back, you were talking about Strassmeyer. I was listening to your episode. There is a Strassmeyer connection. I kind of alluded to in my promo for this. I said we were talking about OKC bombing, the Order of the Solar Temple, and just kind of the and how are they connected? I mean, obviously this is a very tenuous, very loose connection, but I did find it interesting that somehow this comes back to our old buddy Strassmeyer. So walk me through it, because I think this is your longest episode yet. This is 2 hours.
It
It's
is,
funny how
dude.
your show is transformed. It started at the beginning, just all the basic. And I think it's great for people who want to get into parapolitics. You start from the beginning, you work up, and then like you're starting with like, WikiLeaks or like little 30-minute sound bites, and then 100 episodes later, you're 2 hours on some obscure satanic fucking cult.
My God. I couldn't believe it.
So-
Honestly, I was just sitting there like, what have I done? Like, this is too much. I'm spiraling off the planet like I'm Gary Busey or something, dude. Like, it was honestly hilarious just tracking all those. When I was trying to read about this different secret societies and the different groups that predated, and then usually they somehow were involved with the foundation of another group. Either the grandmaster of one group would form another group and then take over that group, or they would name another grandmaster and go take over the additional group. But it always seemed to be some sort of like direct connection to a previous group that existed before, with some sort of just additional twist on the doctrine, right? But I don't know, man. Like, when I was reading about this, it seems like this is an underground network with a belief system that not everyone, like, it's very interesting because the OTS, they were all about reincarnation and past lives and using all these like they even
what
talk
was
about
the Haley's Comet cult? I always forget their name. You mentioned it in the episode.
what was the name of it? I mentioned so many of them.
Yeah, there was the Comet
Slipped my
cult,
mind.
because I've gone on a little bit of deep dive before, and I just remembered listening to this episode on the Order of the Solar Temple. I keep wanting to say like OT, but Order of the Solar Temple. The Haley Bop, but I forget the name of the cult. The cult
Is
that
it
killed
Heaven's
themselves.
Gate?
Heaven's Gate, yes.
Yeah, that Adams.
But yeah, the Heaven's Gate one. As I was listening to this, I actually for a second was like, wait, is that cult? because I
Right.
was like, figured maybe I just forgot their name or whatever. Because
Hmm.
literally, it's so much of it sounds exactly the same.
Exactly.
If you've ever dug deep into the Heaven's Gate, because it
I.
was a lot of like, we have these levels. There are these people that
Hmm.
below. I think above in this one, it's ascended masters. I forget what it
Yeah,
was.
the
I think there was
there's a
something in
strict
Heaven's
hierarchy. Yeah.
Gate. Yeah, in Heaven's Gate there was something similar to that. There was like these people, and it was like supposedly they were talking to him. And then like in this one, or the Solar Temple, it was like I think it did. They were like kind of making it sound like, oh yeah, we're talking to Ascended Masters behind the scenes, and we're your
Oh,
go-between. But
brother.
then there were also times where they would see them and they played mind games on them to
Oh,
make them
it's
almost
crazier than
like
that.
visual effects to where
Yeah.
they were like, because to the outside world, it's like, oh, these crazy cult people, but to
Right.
them, it's like these people are literally
We
manipulating
saw.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Like I had
And
to
again.
them, I had a spiritual experience. I saw X thing, and it was some
Yeah.
fucking
Oh
trickery, some
man.
wool they pulled over their eyes.
Yep. Terry Huguenin, I think, was the name of one of the former members who became. He left the group before the initial transits in '94, mass deaths. I guess you could call them, but yeah, he left the group because he had found. Well, first of all, there's all this internal strife going on leading up to the first initial transit, where like they're getting popped for gun running and laundering millions of dollars, right? Which I found interesting that the group was tied directly to BCCI as far as laundering money through the CIA front, that's connected to Danny Castellero's octopus and all of that, right? But anyway, um, what did you just remind me of before I got entirely derailed just now?
Oh, I don't know. I know the original question was Strassmeyer, and then I pointed out how it was very similar to the Heaven's Gate cult.
Oh
And then
yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
the
Yeah.
Terry Huguenin, the former member.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what I was talking about. My bad. But
And then we'll get back to Strassmeyer.
we'll get back to stress. But so Terry Huguenin, he discovers that Antonio Dutoit was the one of the members of the leadership, kind of higher on the hierarchy as far as I was concerned, and that was what it seemed like. And he was involved with, basically, he was an expert at special effects, and he had even done special effects for movies and other things like that, and so he was heavily involved with when they would do these ceremonial rituals and the ascended masters would come down once you reached a certain level. Then he would actually play this hologram that legitimately, it was like a Tupac hologram scenario, right? Which
Do
I
you think
just
the
found to be.
Scientologists do this with Xenu? Do you think the
I
Scientologists said we
wouldn't be
just never got
surprised,
that?
man.
Because
Not I
it
would
sounds so
not at all
ridiculous
be
on its
surprised.
face, but if they had some sort of like dog and pony show that went along with it,
Yeah.
I could see how they'd be like, "Whoa,
Right.
Xenu!"
Oh yeah, and especially when, like, for instance, this group, they had armed security right outside the area, and so they had guards heavily secure, that you would have to like get through multiple, and plus they had secret rooms in a lot of their properties that were like when. They discovered the bodies. They didn't discover some of the bodies at first because they were hidden behind this panel in the wall that was like a ritual altar, and all this other stuff was behind there, and that's where a lot of the bodies were. But yeah, so Antonio Dutoit was running all of these holograms for the Ascended Masters, and also keep in mind that Emmanuel, the daughter of DeMambro, Joseph DeMambro, one of the founding members, who was basically credited as being the direct leader of the group. Luke Jure was more of the charismatic face, but there's definitely more to that dynamic as well. But this Emmanuel was supposed to be the basically the second coming of the solar god king. This is this Christ figure in their group, and so he like had he had her like wear a helmet and wear like special gloves and stuff like that, and yeah, so Antonio Dutoit ends up leaving the group, the guy who was running the holograms for the Ascended Masters, and this Terry Huguenin, one of the former members, he leaves because he finds out about the holograms. And I believe it was Emmanuel was coming of age, right? She was like 13 something, maybe even older than that. And she she basically was realizing what the hell has my entire childhood been, and was rejecting the entire narrative around her as this deity, the reincarnated deity sort of thing. And so she is balking at the entire scenario, which caused a lot of internal struggle. And so then Antonio Dutoit leaves the group, and he and his wife, who, by the way, they they have these rules, um, and DeMambro specifically liked the group to obey by this rule that he called cosmic coupling. And so, you know, you would have couples come into the group, and they would just be like, no, you're, well, one, he would come to them and be like, you are the reincarnated Mother Teresa, and, or, you know, something of that nature. And
Now we must fuck.
yeah. And then well, that's what Luc Jouret said, that unfortunately he couldn't go through with his lectures without sexual intercourse. That was definitely, he needed energy in order to perform. But yeah, that's,
I mean, you are on the like the tippy toe of your game when you do just get some nookies and you're like, all right, let's go.
oh my god, bro. But it's even crazier because leading up to the 94 deaths, when Dutoit had left, they end up him and his wife end up having a child. And this is like, DeMambro was extremely upset because he told them they were not allowed to procreate. And so they go and have a child, and they name the child Emmanuel, the same name, but with the different starting letter. I believe it was with an I instead of an E. Except this child, like the prophecy, was actually a male. And so it was also like, you know, there was he was a little bit more upset, DeMambro, because they even like I guess if you want to say this gay ass word, but they would misgender their daughter from birth. They called her by male pronouns, which it was to keep up the prophecy. It's so crazy to me. But yeah, anyway, so they have this child, and DeMambro, he deems it the Antichrist, and orders them killed, like it was right as the fires began. So it was a planned event, like 100%. But I did find it crazy that Terry Huguenin, the former member, when he found out, man, and I watched him give this interview, and he's like, he was devastated. Like, he honestly wanted to commit suicide when he found out, because he had been so thoroughly convinced and manipulated. Like, he believed he had met ascended masters, right? Like, he 100% was indoctrinated in the cult. And so to him, it was, the veil was removed, and everything you ever believed in was a lie. And so he was devastated when he left the group. And so much so, he was like such a timid person that he wasn't even telling anyone. He wouldn't tell them why when they would ask him why he's leaving the group and stuff. And he's the one they tried to lure to the property to make it the 54 instead of the 53 that initially died. And which was this homage to paying homage to the sacrificed Knights Templars, right? And so it's an absolutely insane story. But I feel.
Didn't you say too that once again, there was a long episode. I'd have to listen to it again, but I feel like I vaguely recall you were kind of getting at that they were experiencing a bunch of bad PR around that time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parallels to be had between it and Jonestown, in the sense that it looks like there may have been people hot on their trail or starting to get wise to their bullshit right around the time they fucking just kind of lit the flame, kind of deal, essentially. I mean, I guess no pun intended, man. But well, pun intended, but
yep. And it really blew my mind, because I mean, just the parallels, like you were saying, like, I mean, beyond all these insane links to like infiltrating the hydroelectric corporation in Quebec, and like that being directly tied to a string of bombings and terrorist attacks, right? Which falls perfectly in line with Operation Gladio, right? So that wasn't very difficult. But yeah, they did start receiving very bad press leading up to the event. And also, I found it crazy that you had family members, concerned family members of the victims, right? Who are forming a group, reaching out, filing civil action, creating actual you know, actual documents that reporters and journalists can point to that prove that this isn't exactly what it seems, right? And so the narrative began to shift around the public perception of the group, and it was immediately, because beforehand, keep in mind, they weren't considered a cult beforehand. They were even like, they had like this kind of a PR branch almost, right? With the Golden Way Foundation, where they were like, Luc Jouret would go around giving all these speeches. He gave speeches at that hydroelectric company, Hydro-Quebec, right? Which I found that to be another additional tie-in there. But yeah, so it did fit just right as far as the public perception shifting right before the events took place. And so again, that alarm bells ringing as far as Jonestown was concerned, because the exact same as far as just the way the narrative took place and fell into place, it seems so similar, right? But then you have I know about Grace Kelly, the actress, because my dad was like, he liked watching Turner Classic Movies when we were growing up and stuff, and he liked Alfred Hitchcock and all this, and so I appreciate older cinema, and I always knew that she was one of the original like beautiful actresses, but she was talented though, but I didn't know. I knew that she got into a car accident that became very famous, and I thought it was merely because she was this beautiful actress and it was a tragedy. But yeah, it seems like there's a little bit more to that story that I had no idea. But why would I be surprised? She's married into the Prince of Monaco, Prince Rainier, right? I mean, she's literally married into a royal family, so not at all should I be surprised.
You mentioned before, I believe you said, I don't remember if it was drug or gun running or maybe both. If I recall correctly, maybe I'm misremembering, but in the episode you made references to, and I'm kind of like tying this into Gladio, sort of, because I mean, you get the drug, gun running. Wasn't there, maybe I'm recalling incorrectly, but I vaguely recall some kid fucking essentially? Was there that sort of stuff going on, or no? Am I remembering it incorrectly?
I haven't found that yet. As far as
maybe I was something else in the episode, but I was like, because I was trying to piece together. I'm like, if you have all these elements, and then I believe there were Gladio connections, which I guess we'll get into when we make the Strassmeyer connection. But yeah, so I was like, is that like already a third element there? Like, right? But yeah, okay. So, but no, I guess go ahead.
Well, I just think that you have direct ties to Luciferian, beliefs as well, and the Green Order, and like the foundation of those groups, right, being tied in with Amorc, right, which is the Rosicrucian Order, which DeMambro himself came from, right? So I think that people need to realize like how much the theosophist esoteric aspect of this is truly tied in, because they really, they're borrowing from all these different doctrines, right? But at the same time, it's like you have specific beliefs that they are in line with, that are perfectly in parallel with the Tool Society, with the Brotherhood Polaris, with the Green Order, like I just mentioned. And these are things that I wasn't even aware of until recently. And they are adherent to Lucifer, Mithra, Kali, and Lilith, right? So these are just, again, right, occult deities, occult doctrines. I'm not at all surprised. But anyway, I think what is crazy is that the Sovereign Order of the Solar Temple, the OSTS, right? It was incorporated under Monaco law in 1967. All right. And we had just mentioned Prince Rainier, right?
Yep.
So there we go. Monaco was selected because the Grand Master handpicked by Breyer, who was the basically the story goes that this Jacques Breyer was allegedly he was contacted by what was it? It was like 9 unknown men. That's what it was. And so he claims he's like this French esoteric author. And he claims that they were contacted by these secret masters of the temple and asked to establish a Templar Renaissance, right? And so Breyer identified this Argeny as the original location where Hughes de Payens and 9 original knights founded the Order of the Temple in 1118. And so this is when allegedly Breyer began to communicate with this 9 at Argeny, this and so identifying them with the souls of the 9 founding knights of the Knights Templar. And so within the Brotherhood Polaris, the 9 are also referred to, and they're referred to as the 9 hidden masters of Agartha. So this again falls perfectly with the OTS doctrine, where they believe like the Knights Templar, the planet Sirius, or the star Sirius, I mean, and it's all perfectly what that they basically had recreated Agartha was this prophecy. But the secret, so the concept of the 9 unknown men was popularized by like all these different synarchist authors, and the 9 unknown was this novel, right, in 1923. And it was allegedly, it was about this secret society that was founded by this Buddhist emperor Asaka, and I guess what they believe, or what they claim to believe, is that they were entrusted with guarding these 9 books of secret knowledge that would be dangerous to humanity if it fell into the wrong hands. And so there's a book called In the Morning of the Magicians, right? And Powles and Bergier claim that the 9 unknown were real, and that Pope Sylvester II had met them, and that 19th century French occult writer Louis Jacolet confirmed their existence. The 9 unknown were also the final dedicatees mentioned in the dedication of the first edition of Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible in 1969. And so apparently this is what's connected to, like, Breyer subsequently founded the Sovereign Order of the Solar Temple, right, in 1966. And that's when it was incorporated under Monaco law. And so it gets insane. And once again, you know, you have Monaco socialite and friend of P2 member Prince Rainier. So we have, again, a secret Freemason right chapter in Monaco, P2, a secret Freemason lodge, and Prince Rainier III, the husband of actress Grace Kelly. And so she inevitably became a high priestess in the order. And I guess, by the way, when her car accident happened, it turns out that she had all her stuff with her. Like, she was leaving, right? And there's a story that allegedly she had basically like found out about some of the different things that were happening within the OTS, as far as like the Ascended Masters being holograms, other things of that nature, plus the sexual dynamics involved. Like, she was supposedly like a huge whore, and that kind of fits as far as, like, by the way, like, there's a huge percentage of the group itself are female, which I think it's like 2/3 or something. It was like a crazy amount. And so at least enough for it to be worth mentioning, right? And
not a total sausage fest.
No, yeah, not. And again, like Luc Jouret, I guess you could make the argument that he wasn't the ugliest man. You know what I mean? But especially when he was younger, didn't look as much like a crackhead. But by the way, they're suffering like severe physical illnesses. Like DeMambro was in poor health when all of this was orchestrated. So it could have been like a product of this group has been overexposed, right? Because of, once again, like I said, like you had all these different articles being ran, tying them back, Canadian journalists tying them directly to running, laundering money through 2 different banks in Canada. And one of them was BCCI. The other one, I forget, something limited. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's very interesting because the Jouré made this really dumb decision to have like members of the group go out and make a weapons purchase, like conduct a weapons deal that is very obviously illegal in Canada. And they got picked up on this weapons deal, which was like semi-automatic rifles with silencers, I believe is what it was. And so Jouré gets in trouble for this. And this is right around the time where I believe the plan really starts to be, hatched out and orchestrated, because it seems like they were being sued by all these other victims' families, right? Former members had left the group, had divorced their husband, or let's say in this case where the husband had been convinced to like sell his property and just give all the money to DeMambro. And this woman was completely furious and, conducting like civil action to attempt to get her at least some sort of, money in return. And so, yeah, it was a huge chain of events that took place there. But it seemed very convenient as well for the timing. But anyway, man.
All right, how do we get from there to Strassmeyer? Because I do want to obviously these are going to be very loose connections, but I did find it fun that you were able to string together, which I mean you kind of can do with a lot of parapolitics, but it's fun to see how you get from one thing to the other. So I just want to see how you get from the Order of the Solar Temple to the Oklahoma City bombing. Let's go.
All right, so also involved, right, in the founding of the OSTS, was Konstantin Melnik, right? And this guy is who brings in Strassmeyer as a tenuous connection. So Konstantin Melnik was the head of the SDECE, which is France's external intelligence agency. And Melnik, who was trained by the Rand Corporation, which that comes up all the time. Laurel Canyon is directly connected with Rand. Rand is connected with PNAC, all these policy steering organizations. So again, before I get off track, so he is head of this French external intelligence agency and trained at Rand, conceived of the Red Hand, okay, a group of state-sponsored terrorists who operated in the Algerian War. So, ding, 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 Gladio. Like, that's all you have to say for that. Because, I mean, you look at Benoit de Bonvoisin and, the connections with Belgian Gladio. Again, Luc Jouret is from the Belgian Congo. Like, his parents came from the same place Marc Dutroux came from. Marc Dutroux's parents came from. Like, it just blows me away. And then you have Thuriart and his youth group in Belgium that, and again, I'll get right back to Strassmeyer, but that directly connects, brother, to this group of French Gladio, right? And which extended to Canada, right? And so anyway, Melnik not only involved with this state-sponsored terrorist organization and the operating in the Algerian War, he had been in exile in the United States, of all places, and was called to return to activity, right, by this Francois de Grossouvre. I don't know how to pronounce, who was the head of Arkansas, the regional branch of Gladio of Lyon. So, in 1981, this regional branch leader of Gladio of Lyon, de Grossouvre, became the advisor of former Cagoule member, President Francois Mitterrand, for secret operations, okay? So Mitterrand was a key advocate of a united Europe. Together with German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, he fathered the Maastricht Treaty, which was signed in 1992 and transformed the EEC into the EU. So my tangential connection was Helmut Kohl, right? Because Helmut Kohl's chief of staff to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl, okay, happened to be Gunther Strassmayer, father of Andreas Strassmayer.
Andy the German.
We all know who Andy the German is, right?
Okay, so okay, it still seems kind of long and winding. Go, I guess, run through real quick that again, because that I feel like there was a lot of people and a lot of organizations.
No, I know.
I mean, obviously, I know it's super tenuous, but I'm trying to connect the dots, because it was just goes to Gladio and then just vague Gladio and then.
Well, it's interesting because President Mitterrand, all right, this is what you have to realize, is that the guy who's running the branch of Gladio and Lion, right, de Gros Souvray or whatever, he becomes advisor to Cagoule member Francois Mitterrand. And Mitterrand is the one who co-created the EU with Helmut Kohl. And Helmut Kohl's chief of staff at this very time is Gunther Strassmayer. So my tangential connection is Gunther Strassmayer is swimming in the same circles as Operation Gladio, clearly being conducted at an operational level. And whether he was aware of it or not, I can't tell you. Not as of now, but I think that once I read this,
what usually you would assume would be in the know.
You would imagine, yeah,
right.
I mean,
that's kind of the purpose of a chief of staff, but
you would think,
yeah, because literally, if I to sound and just kind of dumb it, I'm pretty sure chief of staff is literally the one who runs the entire staff for the military. Yeah. He's kind of like his point man, or not the military, but for the for his cabinet. So he's like his point man for his cabinet and his staff. I think maybe not for the cabinet. I don't know if that necessarily counts, because those are other like heads of departments, or maybe it's just his staff. But either way, he's kind of like his point man. Like he's like his top assistant is essentially, his right hand man essentially.
That's why there's no way that there's not additional information there. That's all I'm saying. So
I mean, real quick, obviously I know he's not a president, so I was looking at it in the perspective of like what a chief of staff is. The president, obviously Helmut Kohl is not a president, but you get what I mean. He serves the similar function, but at a different level. But sorry, go on.
Right. No, you're good. I just think, I'm like, no way am I surprised that Helmut Kohl came as soon as it did. I just immediately thought at least another connection. Maybe I can at least tug on that thread. You never know what you'll find. That's all I'm saying. Like when you take a different approach, right? Like with these subjects, it's so crazy, man. Like, when like I'll be reading about Watergate, or I'll be reading about, I mean, man, The Ultimate Evil or Marc Dutroux, and I just find some sort of different perspective, a different lens into the same story that uncovers another thread that you can pull on. And before long, you realize that in some of these circles, they run a lot smaller than you realize. And I think that should make a lot more sense. I mean, honestly, when you're dealing with secret societies and covert intelligence operations, I mean, come on. Like, of course that would be the case. It's just like Stephen Paddock. Everybody wonders why he didn't have a public profile beforehand, because he's a spook. It's like, how many times can you see the pattern recognition and then reject it? I mean, it's like, at a certain extent, I know that, you run the risk of losing objectivity, but it's important because as I continue to do research, I realize the layers are much deeper than I ever imagined, right? This was not something, and again, I'm not trying to lose credibility. I'm not trying to.
I think people should be able to walk and chew gum. Like, it's just
Yeah,
not
that's what
that
I'm saying,
it's not
man.
that crazy. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I get people saying, "Oh, once you start speculating and making all these connections, and you'll start
Mm,
going nuts and blah, and like you'll have crazy conclusions." And it's like,
right.
I don't know. Maybe if you just realize that you really shouldn't ever, depending on, I don't know. I mean, like, it really is should just be as simple as like if you get a grasp on the information that's coming in, you should be able to decipher what's fact and what is just connection, speculation, and from there be like, this is my, like I said with the case of Oklahoma City bombing, like I think it was probably a false flag. I think that somehow some deep state of some sort, whatever you want to call it, some group within the government did some shit, and I don't think it was just an oopsie.
Right.
But I can't prove that. That is speculation. But like, there's just like, you see enough where you're like, I don't know. I think a lot of signs are pointing to this, and I don't think that's wrong. But there can be a piece of evidence that suggests something, and by itself it means nothing. But when you conglomerate it with a fuckload of other ones, you're like,
Well,
all right, it's saying something. But yes, you have 80 sort ofs, and you realize that still means a sort of, but it's a very strong sort of.
right.
Like,
Oh yeah. And
yeah.
we know what Andreas Strassmeyer was doing, right? So
Yeah.
it's just like when you're aware of a covert agent at that level, right? Of
Yeah.
covert operations where you can just disappear again, right? I mean, it basically, right? I mean, where is Andreas Strassmeyer? What happened to him? Do we know?
What was it? John Matthews. Fucking God. What is it? He. What did he say? I'm forgetting the little fact. He was talking to his handler at one point, and they were talking about what was it, the ARA, I believe. What was it? Isn't that the one that fucking that old McVeigh was in? I might be fucking up the acronym,
Yeah, I'm
but
pretty
what?
sure you're right.
Yeah,
The
the
Aryan
ARA.
Republican Army.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
he asked him if that was a Fed front at one point, and he was like, "Yep."
Dude.
So
And
like,
reading
Don
about.
Jared was his handler. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So Don Jared, there was an email, and like, there's an email somewhere. I'm pretty sure you can actually look it up. It's probably on the Institute archive. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like there's actually like a legit email between Don Jared and him where he's like asking about it. Yeah, because I think they were like, the context is they were talking about another one that had already been like known to be like a front. And I
Right.
believe then he mentioned that, like, oh, well, is that the ARA? Like,
Oh,
yep, or
dude.
something like that. I mean, maybe I'll look it up. I have it in my notes. Maybe I fucked it up, but
They're not very creative, man.
nope,
It's like
nope.
it's like
No, I was
read
right.
about
That's
that.
100% it. It's the
Yeah,
ARA was
it's the
he
ARA,
said.
dude.
Yeah,
'Cause
which I
when
mean,
I was
there's
reading,
nothing else to suggest it other than Don
no.
Jared saying it. I mean,
Oh
even
yeah,
if you look at actually, never mind. I guess there is a lot to suggest it.
there's
If
a
you just
lot,
look
bro.
at fucking,
Yeah.
if you look at, I mean, fuck, old Langan, just old Langan by himself. Fucking, was it Donna Langan and what was the other one? Steve, or was it Steve? Was he Steve as a dude? I forget. But either way, yeah, just that person. Like, what, his parents? I think were both spooks, or at least one of them was a spook. He was in Vietnam, I think roughly around Phoenix time with his spook dad. And fucking, he saw the fucking monks burning themselves and shit like that
Get
as
the
a little
fuck
kid. So it's like, and this dude then grew up to be some fucking troon. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. He was also a
Right.
fucking informant for the Secret Service at one point. Like, this is
My
like
God,
fact.
stop it,
Like,
dude.
I don't know if you remember that.
I wonder
Like,
what year
that's
that
probably
was.
I don't
Son
know.
of
That
a
was
bitch.
before all this stuff. But the funny thing is actually, like, the story there is that because I think Guthrie was making threats to death threats to one of his president or somebody big, and then the Secret Service then enlisted Langan. I think he was in prison at the time. They enlisted him as an informant, and essentially the story is Langan basically just used him to get out of prison and basically fucked off. Which, I mean,
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God.
Either way, I don't know. It's just
Right.
funny. But they just let him, whatever, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, that's how that works. Pete Langan. Adam, correct me.
Pete.
I don't know why I wanted to say Steve, but Steve. Yeah, there we go. Pete Langan. Or Donna Langan. Yeah. But all right, guys, we're going to swap over to the call-in portion of the show. Call in at 941-281-5828. 5857. We'll also go through your chat. So if you guys have any questions, anything along those lines. But in the meantime, I think there was some big news today. We're trying to, obviously we keep talking about whatever the hell we want to spurg about on the show, but it's also supposedly it's supposed to sort of also be topical. So if there's topical stuff going on, obviously Assange just got released.
That's crazy, man.
I believe, didn't you do like a WikiLeaks episode at one point?
I did.
You got into some of the weirder stuff about Assange. So I mean, maybe that might be a good time to go into some of that. I know everyone's already speculating. Oh, he's a fucking Fed. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't fucking know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. I mean, it's. I will be honest. What my knee-jerk reaction was to seeing it was one, of course, like on its face, of course, like thank God that Julian Assange is out. But at the same time, it's like I had the first thing that I saw when I saw the video of him just walking into the plane, right? And I was just like, he looks good. I thought he was like being tortured to death. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was just kind of like and again, I'm not saying I wish that were the case. I'm not saying that, but I am saying like, I do find it interesting, especially when you go back. I'm going to have to dive deeper into that story about the family and Julian Assange's, mom's boyfriend, who was, there's a reason he has that platinum blonde hair. He was in a little cult that was tied to MK Ultra in Australia, man. And that to me alone was insane, beyond the fact that the story goes that him and his family were like on the run from this psychotic, cult member after they saw the light. But yeah, it was some woman who ran that cult to the family too. And like, she would make all the kids, they were all like young kids. She would make them all, dye their hair platinum blonde. Yeah, it was a strange thing. I'm going to have to do like another deep dive, because my approach with the Assange episode, when I did the WikiLeaks episode, was pretty much that, he was a political prisoner and he's being abused for telling us the truth, and so like at least most people who have some sort of frame of reference in regard to his situation. But when you go deeper into his history and you see like, when he was the Mindax coder, right, the hacker Mindax or whatever, right, and he wrote like this program called like Psychophont or something. And it was like a huge deal because it allowed international subversives to conduct massive attacks on the US military. Right. And so this is like, this could be a very plausible background narrative for a spook, for sure. Or it could be 100% legitimate, and which I have no evidence that he's, some sort of intelligence operative, other than he seemed to run a counterintelligence operation to the U.S. military. And I'm kind of happy that he did that. But so I don't know. It's tough. But I really think, dude, the biggest thing that always bothered me was he didn't really come out and defend Seth Rich, and again, it's like, believe what you want in terms of the Seth Rich narrative. But I certainly don't believe what allegedly happened. I mean, we know for a fact that was like some. It wasn't even a hack, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. It was like a whistleblower. He had a thumb drive, basically. It's a spear phishing. Like that. That's not a sophisticated form of hacking, man. And so, like, for the idea to be that Julian is leading the source, or whatever the idea is, that he's trying to fish for the source to allegedly commit crimes on behalf of attaining the information for WikiLeaks, so you can make some sort of plausible claim that de facto he's involved in committing this crime. But it's just, you can't even prove that, though. So, but anyway, I did think that the spear phishing and the whole like what Bill Binney was saying, like the what is it, intelligence officials, what was it, a group where veteran intelligence professionals for sanity, that's what it was. And they perfectly made the case that that was a leak and had nothing to do with, it certainly wasn't a Russian hack. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was an external device. It was a thumb drive. And so I entirely believe that it was Seth Rich. And I just kind of, I don't know. It was interesting when Assange brought up the case of Seth Rich, right? Because he was asked directly whether Rich was a source. And Assange said, of course, we don't comment on who our sources are. So it's like, you know, you can't really prove that. But
yeah,
I don't know. Seymour Hersh seems to think that there's more to the story. And he got caught on like a hot mic too, man. Like he didn't mean to actually say the things that he said. He thought it was off the record. And so I always found this I played a audio clip in my WikiLeaks episode. I remember now around that Seymour Hersh bit where he's basically, you know, confirming that, you know, Seth Rich was definitely killed more than likely, right, for the leak. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I don't know, man.
All right. I got Pangolin here. Says, wait just darn minute. Are you working with Tim on a new video? I swear I saw a message from you suggesting that there was a spicy video with Tim coming out that you figured would get taken down. All right. Now, this is one of my Patreon members. I'm bringing it up because he did chat this. I don't know what's going on, dude, but I could pretty much guarantee I didn't say anything like that to you. I don't know. Maybe you wildly misinterpreted something I said somewhere. I don't remember directly messaging you this. So, I don't know. All right, we got a return guest joining us in the backstage. One of our patrons, client number 9.
Whoa,
what's up, my
buddy?
dude? Pleasure to have you back. What's up?
What's going on, man? I made it. I joked with Austin. I was going to say, people like, who is this motherfucker? Be like, hey, if you want me off the stream, you got to pay these guys and buy me off the stream. But who had freeing Assange on your pre-election dance or bingo card? I certainly did not.
I thought, well, okay, I guess a surface, interpretation of this could be, Biden's handlers don't want that political football viable for Trump. Potentially, I don't know. I mean, it's because Trump is running his mouth as far as saying he's willing to pardon Ross Ulbricht and Assange. So the fact that he said that in the first place, to me, that's really like the face value, interpretation. Maybe
the LP for that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
that's really awesome. Yeah. But that was my only other thought, though.
Well, and then the Fed got hacked. Apparently, that's fun news from today.
Did it really?
Well.
I didn't see that.
33 terabytes of information, apparently. So probably my prediction, they're going to blame Russia, and that'll be our prompt. But something you said, the reason I signed on was you mentioned French Gladio and the Congo connection, and I'm curious if you found any link to I think was it Romeo Dallaire was the leader for the UN forces in Rwanda during the genocide, and he was part of Operation Turquoise. And it doesn't get much more satanic than hacking up 1 million people in 90 days with machete. And there was a statement. I don't remember the guy's name. I'll have to look it up. But there's a CIA operative mentioned. He said the most deadly weapon in the Rwandan genocide was not the machete or rifle. It was the radio, because of Radio Mille Collines and all the propaganda. So I've always felt there was a tie into Mockingbird too. I was curious your thoughts on that, and then I'll get out of your way.
I would not be surprised. I'm gonna have to do a Rwanda episode. Honestly, I would love to cover that. But I wouldn't at all be surprised. I mean, it really does seem like Gladio is far-reaching, my friend. Like, my God, it's insane. And it's an infrastructure, man, and it's built on these they're basically just underground organizations, a network of them, and they overlap all together but it's cults, it's even religions, like Scientology is considered a religion, but now much more people would look at it as a cult, I would think. But at the same time, it's like, right, like, of course they had a version of Gladio happening at that time when Rwanda happened. So it's like there's going to be direct connections there to the Belgian network and the French network, 100%. Like it doesn't seem like any of these people are like untouched and unscathed by they all overlap again. Like they met each other, like Theory Arts, young group in Belgium, and he's once again perfectly involved with the French network, propping up Gladio in France. So, like, and I don't remember if, well, the Breyer connection of like the, like the, what do they call it? The, like the resurgence of the Knights Templar, right? With the Breyer claiming he met those Divine Nine or whatever the hell they were called. Not Divine Nine. That was Ultimate Evil. But anyway, but yeah, it reminded me directly of, it reminded me so much of Jim Jones and the shared relationship with, what's his name? The guy who ran Colonia Dignidad. Paul Schaefer. And yeah, it's just like they were believing the same doctrine from the same, doomsday, occultist basically. But in reality, it was like, it's just a false narrative, man, because it's clearly propping up Gladio. I'm not even entirely certain that Luke, first of all, I think Luke Jarre is directly connected. Well, we know he's directly connected to Gladio, but I think he's an operative of Gladio at a certain extent, because when he went and joined the military after the homeopathic medical degree that he achieved, and then he goes and joins the paratroopers, and he's running these covert operations, and then all of a sudden he's out, and he goes and he gives lectures at the Golden Way Foundation and meets Joseph DeMambro, and they hatch this plan, hey, you should head up this ORST. I can't remember which group it was because there are so many, but it was one of the original groups, OST, ORST, not the OTS. But he ended up just once the Origas, once the original Grand Master died, right? He decides he's going to name himself the head, the Grand Master. DeMambro gave him the idea, and then and so he names himself Grand Master. And the daughter of Origas, the previous Grand Master, was like super upset. There's all this internal struggle. They're upset about the leadership and the funds of the group. And then Jarre just ends up starting the OTS with Joseph DeMambro and taking a bunch of people from this other group with him. And so, yeah, again, man, like what is he doing? Giving lectures at the hydroelectric company in Quebec, the same time OTS members infiltrated that corporation, and just at that same time, a string of bombings and mass shootings and domestic terrorism starts occurring. Like, come on, man.
Speaking of which, our producer Adam in the private chat is saying, if you ever get into Africa, it says to look into the Rhodesian Bush Wars. Tons of mercenaries from all over the world. Heavy Jew influence. I guarantee there's Gladio / Phoenix stuff going on there. That would make sense at some. That would be the perfect playground for Gladio in Africa, where 100%. For most of the past, let's be real, people mostly just in their head hear Africa conflict and just dump it. They just don't give a fuck. Oh yeah,
they don't care.
You can't get any American to give a flying fuck about maybe South Africa sometimes, but it's about it. They just kind of just throw away. They're just it's fucked. And I get it, whatever. You know what? They're kind of right. It is it's also focus on your own thing. But if you're in this realm and you want to look into where these 3-letter agencies do some fucked up shit, I feel like they probably do a lot of fucked up shit there, because it's they know they can just do whatever the fuck they want for the most part. So,
there's a lot of resources too, and a lot of kids. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the book. I think it was Fergal Keane was a BBC reporter who was covering apartheid and drove up through Rwanda and wrote a book called Season of Blood, if I'm not mistaken. And there was talk in that book, and then also in oh shoot, New York Times guy, Philip Gorovich, I think wrote, it's a long title. It's like, we wish to inform you that tomorrow we will be murdered together with our families or something. It was taken from a letter that was written to a bishop, basically saying, "Hey, come protect us." He let them in the church, and they all died. I think it was in Burundi, Rwanda. 30 years ago, I wrote a paper on this, so I'm losing it. But you triggered it when you talked about Prince Gladio. But there was a lot of talk about where are the children, like in the camps. You know, they had all the refugee camps where they're supposedly protecting them, but they ended up killing a bunch of them, and then a bunch of kids went missing. Which, fast forward to now, starts to make sense after the issue in Haiti and all that. It seems like a lot of kids go missing every time something bad happens in the third world.
Every time Gladio shit be happening, kids be disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be. I did think Adam put in the chat too. He said TLI, which that is the for those who are familiar with, we talked a little bit in this episode, the OKC lore. That's like the first militia that Strassmeyer went to, and that was the militia that he met Holloway at. Dave Holloway, who is a spook, and then he, ended up, so I mean, I don't know enough about TLI to say if really they were that spooky. Seems like they were, since even John Matthews, the PatCon operative, was lurking over there for some fucking reason. But either way, he said the Rhodesian Light Infantry. That's what the TLI is named after, Texas Light Infantry.
Wow.
So that's where the namesake came from. So I mean, you
think they would have worn longer shorts?
Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
Anyways, I'll get rolling. Thank you for your time, and to everybody else, become patrons. Come on in. The water's nice.
Hell yeah,
appreciate
buddy.
it, brother.
Thank you, man.
Come back anytime.
All right, later on.
All right,
Later,
see
brother.
ya. What else we have to go? Let's go back through. I did kind of do a throwaway comment about I do think maybe as much as I rag on the LP, they may have had a part in the whole Assange thing, because by kind of negging Trump, making him appeal to the libertarian base by getting him to come there, which all the prags in the party were all upset about, it did seem like it ended up being kind of a good thing, because he said some wild libertarian shit, just trying to appeal to libertarians.
Right.
It's not going to do a goddamn thing for him, but either way, he still did that. Also, I've been seeing too talk today. I mean, I don't know how. It's just rumors. I don't know how. I mean, it seems like every week there's some new rumor about him, maybe picking some VP. But I've seen a lot of rumors about him picking Vivek, which would be far more libertarian. So between that, I don't know. They may have had a part in kind of negging him towards doing shit. And anyways, the point is getting at, as we were getting at before, the fact that they negged him to be libertarian. He made some comments about. I don't think he actually said that he was going to pardon Assange, but he said we're going to have to think about it. He said it essentially heavily implied he probably would, and he said something about I have to talk to my team or something, and said something about having a big announcement soon or some shit like that. So it sounds like he was going to, going to announce that he 100% would, pardon Assange, and then that's when this happened. So it seems like. They may have tried to steal his thunder to be like, oh, well, fuck you. Here's your deal.
Right. No, that's what happened. That seems to be what happened, But
you know what though? That ends up being a fucking that's not a win for the Biden administration. So even politically speaking, I feel like it's kind of a weak move, because it's like, I mean, all you really did was just take the ball away from Trump, but he could easily play that card, be like, you guys only did it because I was going to. He could even still just pardon him, so he could still do that, because he still isn't pardoned. He still had to take
it's a plea, right? That's what it was.
Plea. Yeah, that's my understanding. So speaking of Australians involved with the feds, from our buddy Dylan Farnham, did you guys ever cover that Aussie whistleblower that just went to prison? He's the one who brought light to the Aussie war crimes. Doesn't ring a bell for me. I mean, it sounds like some vague thing I may have seen. Sorry, dude. I don't know anything about that at all. They would have just let him on TV and not just capped him. I mean, do you really think if he was such a problem to the man, they would have just let him on TV and not capped him? I don't know who you're talking about there. I thought that might have been referring to Assange or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Supposedly, the Australian government was in talks with the Biden administration to free Julian which is very odd knowing that they are heavy into the Five Eyes. I don't know what the fuck Five Eyes is. Do you know?
It's like basically an intelligence apparatus. Yeah. And involves like, at least it's kind of like, now I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that's like a compilation of a few different countries who are all in like this joint intelligence effort. But it also kind of sounds like the UK's like NSA, but I think I'm wrong about that. I think I was right originally, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
You haven't done a Seth Rich episode, have you?
No, I only talked about him on the WikiLeaks one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I do recall, because I recall you going a fairly decent breakdown, but I guess it was like within another episode. So yeah, you did. You kind of covered a lot of the Seth Rich stuff. Not entirely. Five Eyes. All right. What is this? An Anglosphere intelligence alliance comprising Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US. Okay. All right. Got it. So this is all right. I get what he's saying. I get what he was getting at now. What else we got in here? We got any other questions? The World Wildlife Federation is a paramilitary genocide group involved in Rwanda. Is it really? I don't know if I've ever gone down that rabbit hole.
Surprised, man.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, imagine them jocking the fucking WWF acronym. They started doing. I don't know when they came along, but I remember I think there was actually issues, like legal issues between the two of them, and I think that WWF ended up having to change his name. If I
That's
recall
hilarious,
correctly.
man. I did
Can
not
you imagine
know
if that was if that's legit, that's some spook group where they forced the WWF to change their name?
Oh my god!
I don't know. It's
That
just
would be
petty.
hilarious.
It doesn't probably mean anything. You just find it funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you hear? You remember that that part in about in the episode about the Norway mass shooting and the bombing that guy was connected to, Breivik, Anders Behring Breivik? You remember that guy? And where I didn't know about this either, but it came up randomly because he was tied in with these neo-Nazi paramilitary members, right? Who were connected to the OTS. And so I just think it's outrageous that this guy, right, who commits like a string of domestic terrorism, but also ends up killing like 77 people, is directly connected to the OTS, right? It's in Norway. You know what I'm saying? But that blew me away. But that was, again, during that same time where I was drawing the connections between the Brabant gang in Belgium and the Gendarmerie and the different organizations that were neo-Nazi tied organizations in Belgium at the time. And again, how many times have I mentioned the Westland New Post, right? It's like the same thing, right? Where these terrorist actions were blamed by authorities on communist combatant cells. You know what I mean? So anyway,
someone said it's a hell. This is our Dr. Corbo's feel good fun time message. It's a hell of a rabbit hole of murder, genocide, rape, mining interests.
Mining interests.
The mining interests. That reminds me of what we talked about the show. Maybe one of us should probably look into that a little bit more. But what was it? The Congos? That Congo coup or whatever? I believe it was the Congo.
I forgot about that.
There was a mining component to that.
Yeah.
So there was there was like some weird attacks happening to mining stuff. And it seemed to have some sort of thing to do with like China and mining interests.
And Israel too.
And Israel. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam, do you want to hop in? I want to hear you're in the private chat. Sounds like you know a little bit about this WWF stuff. Obviously, maybe it's just something you know from what somebody else said.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
For real, that's why it's the WWE now.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I had no idea.
I can't remember really any of the details, but it gets into like Club of Rome, climate scam stuff.
Wow.
Charlie Robinson has done a whole bunch of work on it, on macroaggressions.
So it's like the rough idea is that they're essentially they tug on the sensibilities of people for the climate stuff, but in reality they're probably doing some sort of funding or actual perpetrating of awful shit overseas.
Yeah, it goes back to all the just climate scam stuff, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Committee of 300.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
My
wild.
God, man.
Oh, jeez.
Not surprised.
All right.
I know that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on that Rhodesia stuff. I love just watching history stuff about different wars. I went down a deep Rhodesian Bush War one a couple months ago. It's pretty cool. Those guys were badasses. But like I read this book recently about this guy who got he was like a hippie in Canada and he got busted for having some LSD in a stolen car, and they sent him to Oak Ridge Mental Institute and like totally MK'd him.
Really?
And this guy, he was in this mental institute with all these like gnarly Canadian serial killers. And there's this guy, I forget the dude's name, but he gives the name and everything. And this dude had just pulled up to a like a bus shelter in Canada and like killed a bunch of people with a shotgun. And he was in this mental institute with the dude. So they like let the guy, I forget the main doctor's name that was there, but it was one of these like infamous, MK doctors like Jolly West, but the Canadian version. They get this dude a Israeli passport and he goes and he enlists in the IDF. They let him out. And I forget which war it is. It's one of the ones where they killed all the Palestinians in the 70s. Maybe like the 6-Day War or something. I can't remember which one. And then after that, he still wants to fight, so he goes and he fights in for the Rhodesian Light Infantry. I think I can't remember which outfit it is in the Rhodesian military, but he goes and he dies in Rhodesia. And I think they have like a bronze statue of him in Israel.
Wow.
And yeah, if you look into it, there's this group in the Rhodesian military called the Selous Scouts, and they were like these real gnarly dudes. It was like half Native African guys and like half European Rhodesians. And they would just like go and do these like guerrilla missions over the border into Mozambique and then down into South Africa, and just do like super gnarly stuff that it's hard to get information on, but that they were doing some like super gnarly Phoenix stuff. So check out that book that I found that out from. It's called The Psychopath Machine. It's a short read. And it's a really, really entertaining book. This guy gets MK'd and then he just ends up in just these real weird predicaments for the rest of his life. So
just Gladio training grounds over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just send some MK'd fucks over there and let them go to town and take the cream of the crop.
Yeah, like because I don't know what percentage of the Rhodesian military, but they were hurting for numbers. So they were like all these old Vietnam dudes that were just like kind of bumming around in America and were like, oh, I kind of like being in Vietnam. Like they were advertising in the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine.
Wow.
Which is the CIA front,
Yeah, 100%. That's where wasn't Soldier of Fortune, I think, was the rag that Strassmeyer, his first post the bombing, the first interview he got was what Rick Sharrow, I think, of Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah, that was it.
Bombed,
and a bunch of stuff like happened
yeah.
at the Soldier of Fortune convention in like Reno in like 87. Like if I, people say like if I had a time machine, I'd go back and kill baby Hitler. Like, dude, no, I would go to the Soldier of Fortune convention in Reno in 1987. That must have been so awesome.
It would do that like Call of Duty thing with all the guys with the machine guns coming out of the elevators. You ever seen that meme?
No.
It's like one of the games where they like the first mission is you literally just mow down like I think a shopping mall.
Yeah.
You guys just in the elevator. There's all sorts of memes of it. I was just imagining that coming into a gun convention or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, like these guys would apply and then they would go through this hiring process, which wasn't very stringent to go to Rhodesia, and they were like allowed to bring all their own weapons and do all this crazy stuff. So it's worth looking into, but they were bad motherfuckers. Like the way that they carried out missions and stuff was
right. It is interesting, the connections there between all that, and then you get into that ties so deeply into like the gun show circuit, which I feel like was like part of. It's like the spook city of like the 90s. Is like that that like Soldier of Fortune, that fucking like gun show is almost like feeding into each other, like both things. It was just
it was like the right wing Dead tour, going on tour with the Grateful Dead, because these guys like McVeigh would like just run into random people and they'd know
on tour.
You'd go to Waco and sell stickers and then be like headed down to the gun show in Alabama and then back to Washington and all sorts of stuff.
You know what? That makes me think of like that is what conventions are like. Let's say like political party conventions, like all the candidates, all the little like, or even just the people who like to go all of them. It's just like you're going through the whole circuit, like around the country. Yeah, it's that same idea, but it's just for feds.
So I would never go to a political rally like ever in my life. Like, did you just see that one with the Congressman Jamal Bowen or Bowman or whatever
with AOC.
Yeah.
I was like,
what's up?
Yeah, dude.
And she's like telling all the people that don't live like in his district to come vote for him.
Takes her hair down. Dude, brother.
Oh, you saw the rally bit where she then made a point to like take her thing out, undo it, and then they kind of like.
That's the guy that pulled the fire alarm, right?
I think so. Yeah,
it
is. Dude, I didn't even put that together. That's hilarious.
You know what though? They won me back though when they put the video of him pressing 4 plates for like fucking multiple reps. I was like, all right, dude, okay.
Yeah.
You may be retarded, but respect.
He put up 4 plates.
Yeah, there's a video that came out. I think Cernovich put it out. It's him with like he's repping 4 plates. I was like, oh fuck, dude, this dude's a hoss. He had like 405 on the
retard strength.
It's like, oh shit. He must have done like 5, maybe 4 to 6 in that range. He's like, oh shit,
wow,
just moving him. 405, that's pretty solid. Yeah, I was impressed.
God,
but all right, I don't know if there's anything pressing on you guys. These things I think we're at probably a good point. I don't mind wrapping a little early, day. I don't know if you guys have anything pressing things. Yeah,
I just wanted to mention real quick. I don't think we talked about Alex Jones. I don't think it happened.
Last
week. Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. Like, what the parent company of InfoWars is that what it as far as I just read an article a minute ago, and basically that's the case. Is that they're supposed to sell that company off to pay the victims' families, right, in damages, right?
I
don't know what the
headlines have said.
Yeah, it's basically what the case is, but it's like I'm not sure still what the consequences ultimately will be. That's my only beyond how it kind of falls into place with my already preconceived notion with the Sandy Hook narrative, and as far as this kind of being it's like honestly, man, it's like a precedent-setting event in a way, right? Because it's just that's clearly not freedom of press, like that's all I'm saying. Like, I mean, as far as you can't honestly prove that he's directly responsible for anyone going to victims' families' homes or anything of that nature. But honestly, I think the biggest thing is how it was televised, the big show trial. It was a huge mockery. The entire scenario, he's like, I've only heard good things about Alex Jones from just people that like Sam, that I like. I'll take his opinion that I hear him occasionally say, but it's like I don't know how well that, these people really know each other. That's all. And so I just find it kind of fascinating, just how this plays out, because it seems so much just based on honestly, man, like it just seems like he's playing this role, whether he's, actively aware and a part of it or not. I can't say for sure, but I will say he's clearly playing a media operative in a way that's making this taboo, that's all. And that's what this process is doing, is that this is now becoming the third rail taboo subject. You're not allowed to have that discussion. And that, for me, brother, like Sandy Hook was the number one that I always like. And again, I haven't done my own deep dive investigation into it. So I've only done like I've only consumed different information about it, some podcasts, some here and there, read an article, but really Donna Huxborough or whatever the hell that lady's name was that showed up in the Boston Marathon bombing, and she's like running a marathon for the families of the victims of Sandy Hook, and she was like Donna Huxborough, the alleged principal who died at Sandy Hook. Yeah, and like crazy, overlapping threads like that, which is like, what in the fuck is going on here? And why would that even happen? Like, you're reusing crisis actors, like, but anyway, I'm just saying, like, I always found it like that was the easiest one to say crisis actors are involved, almost more than Boston bombing. I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one, buddy.
I get what you mean by him playing a role, in somewhat, but like I actually feel like he no longer fits the role as well as they would like to.
That's
because I
true.
mean, me and you both know like the kind of content he puts out. He has been kind of a bit of a Zionist sort of light for a while, but he has kind of in this one been like kind of tenuously a little bit kind of more like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here with Israel? And you know what? Like I think like you could make the case.
Remember when that drone footage came out and he was the one? I was like, holy shit! Alex Jones said something negative about Israel. Like it blew my mind, bro.
But even he's not going super duper hard in the paint, and really as much as he really even should. So I think because he's kind of always been positioned as like, oh, the crazy. But if anything, Alex Jones, as of late, I mean, maybe I'm just out of touch with the general populace, but I feel like he's becoming more and more prescient with the general populace than he is as a crazy kook. Like, you can't just sell him off as a crazy kook like you were able to like 10 years ago. I mean,
is he still warmongering about China as heavily as he was? Like, I haven't listened to him in a long time, but I just know that he's been on that beat for quite some time. Right, just escalating tensions with China as often as possible. Yeah, dude. Brother, it's like it's a little more than that. You know what I mean? But no, that always drives me insane. But
I get what you mean. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he is completely an op or not. Everything's a fucking op, dude. I mean, I get what you mean. I do think at one point in time that was like he was such a big name and he was in a spot in the Overton window that was the idea that we can get him, and this will like, so far as like in the eyes of the public, not be that big, like, and it'll advance our goals. Whereas this feels like boiling the pot too quickly. You know what I mean?
I agree, but I also think that what I always, I mean, he just flip-flopped in a way, and I just found it like, this is your moment, brother. Like, if you're going to have one, don't apologize. That's all I'm saying. Like, don't say, I'm sorry to the victims' families. It was a huge mistake, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just saying, when you say I was wrong, but you don't lay out any, reason as to why you made those original claims, even though I know that there's legitimate information and evidence proving out a lot of the claims that he initially made. And I haven't found anything that's disproven some of that evidence. So it's just like, why are you now bending the knee after everything, after this whole fucking thing happened? Now you bend the knee after you get basically a Netflix series for your show trial. You bend the knee, and that it just stinks to me, man. It doesn't smell right. That's my only concern.
I mean, for me, it's like I don't know to what extent I can really input it, because he does kind of just also seem like your normal, just kind of like, kind of based conspiracy boomer. So it's like, so it's really hard to get a read on, like, is this just genuinely who he is?
I know, right?
or like, I don't know. I just try to kind of assume the best for the most part, but while having open eyes and kind of just realizing, looking at things objectively, because I mean, it is what it is. But I think we're at like an hour and a half now. I think we'd probably be a good time to get out of here. You want to go ahead and let people know where they can find you at? I'd highly recommend people go check out your newest episode. Pretty fucking wild ride.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, man. So as always,
go ahead.
What's up?
I was going to say something else. I realized I can just say it later. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
All right. So as always, you can follow my podcast at all audio streaming platforms, basically. And it's the Underclass Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at UnderclassPod. Follow me on Instagram at the Underclass Podcast. Support me on Buzzsprout. Support me on Patreon. I'll hit you up with the link. I'm definitely going to start a paywall model at some point. I just, man, I've been chasing my tail from having family come visit and having just different scheduling conflicts that it's just been a little bit difficult lately. So I figured I'd just get this one right out to everybody, and then maybe that'll be the model going forward. So, but yep, that's how you can find me. And it's been fun, my brother.
Hell yeah, man. I was going to say, and then I realized this made more sense for this part. I'm going to be going on Jacob of the Rise to Liberty podcast on Thursday at like 9:30. I think he goes live. So if you guys want to pop in for that one, talk to us.
He's cool, man.
Enjoy having you. He's cool.
He sent me this badass video about Nixon had done all these interviews, right? And with this personal friend who was a journalist, I guess. And yeah, so he basically addresses the question, did the CIA stage a soft coup on you during the administration covertly? And then he hits on all the points without, like, he doesn't have to. It's crazy, but he says it. But it was an extraordinary video. And I was like, thank you, brother, for sending that. So he's a cool dude. I like Jacob, man.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. I have the No Way Jose podcast. We stream this on my No Way Jose YouTube channel, also my Rumble channel. If Austin ever makes like a YouTube channel, we'll stream it to that as well. I also stream it to the Tower Gang one, but that's probably not going to be permanently. At some point, I'll stop doing that. But yeah, I do want to give a big shout out. Oh yeah, guys, if you want to be able to get that early content that I have, or if you want to be able to get pop in as a screen like client number 9 did today, you need to support me at Patreon at patreon.com. Just NoWayJose2020. Lowest level is $2 for all those perks. Highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode of my co-host on Tower Gang Toad at Tower Gang Toad. I have at Abrogate D's at ZOVERACK. at _Infinite Zeal, then Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast, then Tim Tuttle, the homie, at Julian Klebold. If you guys want to dig into Sandy Hook, that's Tim's your great guy. I had him on for a series for it, so only on Rumble, so you got to go find that one, or on the audio podcatchers. So yeah, definitely that's your guy. Go hit him up if anyone wants to dig in that. And also my homie Will Bell of Rabbit Eye Wine. The shit's delicious. Go get you some. Yeah, guys, let's get the fuck out of here. Good show. Thanks, guys, from Charles K. Appreciate everyone who showed up. Pop back in next week at 9:30. Tweet at us what guests you want. We know what guests for next week. So tweet at me or Austin and say, hey, we should probably try to get a guest. We're trying to do a guest every other week. We haven't scheduled one. So let us know who you want. We'll try to get them on. And with that, we are out.